Hey everybody, it's me, Zach, and welcome back to my channel. Hey everybody, hi, how are you all doing? I'm back again because I was kind of waiting to see how folks would respond. Folks partially folks being like people in my comments, but also folks being like Rachel, Hecticana, Jawbone, Studio Deeds, people that were involved in this Discord. I was kind of waiting to see how everybody responded before I really put together like a full thought on follow-up in regards to the drama that I covered in my last video here on YouTube, which is Rachel manipulating, flirting with, offering to pay for receipts from Emily/Tommy. And just as a quick note, Emily and Tommy are the same person. Tommy was Amberlynn's nickname for Emily before Emily's real name was unsurfaced. And I know that can be confusing when I go back and forth between the two, and it's because I think people on this quarter of the internet in general go back and forth between the two, but they are the same person. As a general update, in case you're only following this story through me, Rachel did end up giving money to Beck, and Beck confirmed that they received this money. And almost all the content creators involved in the Discord have responded in some kind of way. And I hope to get into a little bit more of that today, but I want to start with this concept of morality in Gorlworld, and this argument that is sometimes made with me that I'm like standing on a moral high ground. Even Rachel in her follow-up video talked about how people in Charlie Gold's Discord were standing on a moral high ground.
We're all allowed to have opinions, right? I don't think we need to be attacking other creators and sharing the faces, names and voices of private individuals during that process. But if that's what you want to do, you do you. I personally think it's a little bit strange, and I've seen the people in this creator's Discord, they're all circle jerking and laughing and talking with each other, and it's hilarious because they don't even know how to read a date, and they're all excited, and there's loads of like moral grandstanding going on, and they're all really excited and happy and talking with their Discord buddies about the tea that they've gotten about me, when in fact they didn't actually get very much tea at all.
For me personally, I want to say that I think I tried really hard to take a nuanced approach to the conversation regarding morals and moral high ground in my last video. But I will say, the more and more I've thought about it, it occurred to me that arguments of me standing on a moral high ground over time really come down to saying more about the people that are making that argument and their own morals than it says about me and mine. It's really a deflection tactic, in my opinion. So when people are upset that I draw a line at something like this, they're comparing my morals to theirs, and they think that perhaps because we share interests in following the antics of people like Amberlynn and Chantal, that everything that I say or do lines up with how they feel about the situation themselves. And the reality is that my lines and boundaries likely won't line up with everybody who watches me or participates in Gorlworld. And I'm content if my morals don't line up the way that you think that they should. If there's some part of me speaking about this kind of behavior in this corner of the internet and it makes you feel some type of way that I'm like calling it out, I invite you to take a look at your own insecurities about your flaws when it comes to morality. Perhaps this is uncovering something for you in the way that you feel about your morality and the right and wrong behaviors you participate in on the internet. But I will say, Gorlworld has a spectrum of tolerance for what is generally interpreted as morally acceptable. And I agree that there are many people in this quarter of the internet who really don't share my morals or values. But the reality is that morality has long been used as a rightful reason for people to not like Amberlynn and Chantal. It's been used time and time again to criticize them and their behaviors. I think we all generally agree that both of them are morally deplorable in the ways that they treat the other people in their lives and the animals in their lives. And a lot of people use that judgment, that moral judgment, as reasons to treat Amberlynn and Chantal some type of way. And perhaps that even includes myself. I just did a live stream last Friday where I reacted to some stuff that Chantal was doing, And somebody asked me in that live stream, like, how could you still be friends with Charlie? Yikes. And in that reasoning for why I'm still happily friends with Charlie Gold, I shared that, yeah, there's a lot of things that Charlie says about Chantal and Amberlynn that I wouldn't say, nor do I necessarily condone, but I also recognize that Charlie calling them fat is nowhere similar to the level of deplorable Amberlynn and Chantal are when it comes to how they treat people. So perhaps that's a moral failing on my end as well. I don't know. I just know for myself, I'm not gonna ditch Charlie because she called Chantal pig mad. But anyways, all of this to say, I don't want this to fool you, this conversation to fool you into thinking that the larger community in general doesn't have a problem with this behavior, because overwhelmingly in my video that received over 150,000 views as of right now, the comment section was filled with people who agreed with me, who appreciated my take, who all felt like the Rachel and the Discord of it all went too far. And while views and subscriber counts aren't necessarily a moral indicator of good or bad, it absolutely could be an indicator that you're not alone in thinking these things. Over the last 2 weeks, Rachel's lost 11,000 subscribers, Hecticana's lost 5,000 subscribers, Jawbone's lost 570 subscribers, and Studio Deets lost 1.3 thousand subscribers. And trust, plenty of people wanted to bring up my need to return to this type of content for views, but I promise you I pay my bills are paid, with or without this drama. I'll happily continue to take 30,000 views on a video about Rosie, Chantal, or glitter and lasers, or whatever else might interest me at the moment, if it means that I stuck up for my morals and my integrity. So since my last video about this topic and this Discord drama, all of the creators in the screenshot have, at a minimum, made a statement. And some of them have even pushed forward with continuing to post receipts and talk about receipts. My goal of providing commentary on this drama is not necessarily to cancel any creator or to encourage you to unfollow anybody. For me, I want to have a larger conversation of what is acceptable in this corner of the internet and why we accept it. So many people also commented on my video that they felt like this was a wake-up call when it comes to following Gorlworld and how they weren't getting anything positive from this type of content anymore. And as somebody who took an extended break from talking about Amberlynn at all, I can tell you that it was an overall net positive for me. Absolutely don't continue doing something that no longer serves you. I also want to note when it comes to this conversation about like my goal not being to cancel anybody, I also want to say that there's probably some level of like disproportionate criticism being given to the group as a whole. For instance, I think it's really unfair that like the level of hate for Studio Deets seems to be on level with the level of outrage towards Rachel. And at most, at least in the screenshots that I saw, Studio Deets made a comment about Obese to Beast, whereas Rachel is like admitting to all kinds of awful things when it comes to money and manipulating Emily to get tea. That's not to say that Studio Deets is without criticism, because like the other reactors in the Discord, she absolutely has gone on to make content about leaked videos and voice notes from Emily. And on that note, Rachel's first video post-Discord drama is about Emily and Amberlynn's truck argument that Jordy initially shared in a live stream.
Today we're going to watch together the new video that was released by Jordy, where we see Amber and Emily having this like kind of altercation outside Emily's house. This video was filmed on the 9th of November, so that's how it kind of fits into the timeline of Amber being in Wisconsin. It was 8 days before Rarity went missing. This is the kind of stuff that was going on. We're going to watch this video together. This video, which by the way, tells us so much about the kind of abuse and manipulation that Amber displayed in this relationship, but also in all of her previous relationships, right? The way that she speaks to Emily in this video, my God, it is so telling. It's so interesting.
Something about Rachel continuing to talk about the alleged domestic violence Emily faced at the hands of Amberlynn doesn't sit right with me. I want to remind you that Rachel went on in her posts taking accountability, allegedly taking accountability for everything with Emily. She went on and on and on about how DV is not tea, how she went about this all the wrong way, how she felt icky about things. And in order to try to put a band-aid on this whole situation, she initially offered to donate proceeds that she was gonna give to Emily to a DV charity, and then ultimately gave it to Beck at the suggestion of her audience, even if she didn't seemingly want to do that.
So I say, while I understand this decision will be disappointing to you, I can't in good faith pay you for the video where I shared your story, because I heavily suspect that you had other motives for speaking to me besides getting your story out as a DV victim. I feel I've been a pawn in a bigger game between you and Amber, and that my good intentions have been somewhat used. That's the reasoning that I gave her. I thought I was sharing her story, but actually that's not really what was going on. She was using me and my channel and my angle to try and attack Amber. So when I made my community post, all those top comments were people saying, give the money to Beck, give the money to Beck. And I was like, that feels icky, because if I'm taking money that I got by sharing somebody else's DV story and then I give it to Beck, that just felt strange to me. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to fucking lie about that.
Are we going to continue donating the profits you make off of this tea, off of these receipts that you manipulated out of Emily? Or was that just a one-time thing to, like, make everything better and okay? Why did it feel icky that one time when you were taking accountability to use this tea, but now you're gonna keep using it later? And I guess maybe, I don't think that Jordy necessarily said he got this tea from Rachel or whatever, but part of the reason that Rachel said she was uncomfortable with giving any money to Emily is because she felt like she was being used in these mind games between Amberlynn and Emily. So even if Emily went to Rachel directly with this video and shared it with Jordy directly, do you not think that this is all just more mind games on Emily's behalf? Like, do you not think, if that's what your original thought was, is that she was just sharing this information to play mind games with Amberlynn, do you not think that's what all of this is about? The other part of this that's really interesting to me is that Jawbone, a creator that I was not familiar with prior to these Discord screenshots coming out, also posted a video that was dedicated to a voice note from Emily discussing Amberlynn's use of washcloths on the sink to wash herself. And interestingly enough, Studio Deets also made a video about this history of Wipegate, history of Amberlynn using sinks to wipe herself. It was her first video back after addressing the Discord drama. I think it's interesting that Studio Deets seemingly didn't use Jawbone's clip directly, like didn't note that it came from Jawbone, did kind of allude to maybe hearing it from Jordy, but then also used the sound clip and edited it into her video to make it look like she was having a phone conversation with Emily herself.
We are now going to listen to the recording that has been going around Gorlworld of Emily giving verbal confirmation regarding the resurfacing of Wipegate.
She's the most important thing in my life, and also, like, that bothered Amberlynn, too.
Hater Hotline, this is Deets. What you got?
Snowflake was asking me about, like, questions about her hygiene, and I could have gone there.
Kind of feels like we're picking up in the middle of a conversation here.
But I'm like, I don't want to, I'm like, I'm not going to go there. I'm not doing that. I'm not
I get it.
Stooping to her level.
Whatever you want, you do you.
And she didn't shower very often. Like, it got less and less and less.
Oof. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. That's gross. I think we already knew that, though, you know? Like, that's not really news.
She didn't ever wash her hands after going to the bathroom, but she used the fucking washcloth.
Still uses the washcloths?
I just want to emphasize that at this point, all this tea from Emily is inherently flawed. And we need to start asking more questions about where it's coming from all creators who come into contact with it, not just Rachel and her Discord crew. I feel like I didn't emphasize this enough in my video that I posted about the Discord drama to begin with, but I really feel like anything that comes directly from Emily at this point is worthless. If Emily was saying all of this stuff with the expectation that she was getting paid, what's to say she didn't embellish or lie about things that would make Rachel want to pay her money. Rachel said it herself. She really wanted the tea. This is really important to advancing herself in this career.
So I wanted the tea. I run a Gorlworld YouTube channel, so getting receipts and proof about one of the girls is super, super valuable to me. It's valuable monetarily, obviously, because I make profit off the videos. All of that stuff is super valuable. My goal is to analyze the girls the best way I possibly can. So in order to do that, I want to see the proof, and I'm not going to lie about that. I absolutely do.
What's to say that Emily didn't know that and wasn't embellishing on some stuff to get a little bigger paycheck? And when it comes to the clip that Jordy shared, I think almost all the creators I've seen who have talked about this clip of Tommy being in a truck and arguing with Amberlynn, who's seemingly not in the truck, most creators are doing a good job of saying, hey, Tommy knew she was being recorded, Amberlynn didn't, so of course Tommy was on her best behavior. But then most of them all go on to be like, look at how bad Amberlynn is anyways, which probably true, probably true, but I'm just saying, like, that doesn't make Tommy necessarily a reliable narrator, knowing all the things that we know about Emily. Similarly, Mr. Snowflake had just published some kind of list, an apparent list of rumors about Amberlynn, and at least one of those things seemingly came from the voice note that Jawbone shared about Amberlynn wiping herself on the sink.
Today's video is all about the stuff I've been hearing about Amber behind the scenes for, I don't know, ages now. Some of the rumours on the list have been told to me by people close to Amber. Some have been told by Amber telling somebody close to her, then that person has told me. So it's a bit like a game of telephone, I guess, with some of them. So I'm not framing this video as, these are all facts. These are just things I've heard about Amber. I'm sure some are true. I'm sure some are nonsense, so take it all with a grain of salt. Some of the rumours on the list will be known to multiple people, and I prefer those ones so Amber can't trace it back to one person and ruin their life, like she likes to threaten to do. So anytime Amber has told multiple people the same thing behind the scenes, I'm happy to share those ones, because, yeah, she can't trace it back to just one person. Next one, Emily asked Amber to clean the sink. Oh yeah, I forgot about this one. How did I forget about this one? This is the best one. I think I mentioned this briefly in one of my recent reactions. Amber was still using the washcloth countertop method, TM, and was literally staining Emily's sink with shit. So, I'm talking turning granite into mahogany. Emily was obviously disgusted by this and gave Amber a cleaning spray to sort it out. Amber was not a fan of that.
Which is why I say we probably need to also ask Mr. Snowflake and Jordy where they're getting these receipts from, too, because it's possible they're getting them from Rachel, who got them in this very manipulative way to begin with. But even if they got these things directly from Tommy Salami, Tommy ain't shit. Emily ain't shit. That's not to say that I don't think there's a chance that things Emily said or recorded aren't true to what actually happened. It's just to say that there's potentially more to the story. Like, for example, in the Jawbone clip that Emily talks about Amberlynn's hygiene, Charlie Gold has since come out with additional context, additional parts of that audio clip that were shared in that Discord, where Emily full on says, like, don't share this part.
She's the most important thing in my life. And also, like, that bothered Amberlynn too. And I could have totally gone below the belt. Like I said, like you said, I could have released the video. I could have embarrassed the fuck out of her. And, like, Snowflake was asking me about, like, questions about her hygiene, and I could have gone there. But I'm like, I don't want. I'm like this. I'm like, I'm not gonna go there. I'm not doing that. I'm not stooping to her level. And she didn't shower very often. Like, it got less and less and less. Don't share that part, though. And, like, she didn't ever wash her hands after going to the bathroom, but she used the fucking washcloth bullshit. And, like, I got pissed because, like, this is between us. I'm like, I'm gonna put this bottle of spray bleach next to the counter, and I want you to clean up after yourself after you use it, because I'm like, germs, you know, that's gross.
And let's also be clear that this sink wiping situation type of deal isn't even necessarily new information. At best, if it is true, you manipulated this person into sharing that info and then broke their trust by sharing it with other people they probably didn't intend for it to be shared with, or might not have intended for it to be shared with. But there's also the very real possibility that Tommy was just building this story up and weaponizing things that the internet already knew about Amber Lynn. We know that Tommy has spent time on subreddits and forums, watching reaction channels and the DMs of reaction channels. You think Tommy ain't never heard Beck's story about Amber Lynn using the sink to wipe her ass with washcloths? Tommy absolutely knew that lore. Tommy absolutely knew about that. You don't think Tommy's the type of person who might weaponize a story like that to try to make Amber Lynn look bad? And perhaps I'm saying this because I just recently myself dealt with somebody pretending that they knew me on the internet and basing their whole story around bits and pieces of things that I said in past Twitch streams. But it's really important that we be critical of what people are saying and what evidence they have to support that. Again, it's not to say that Tommy couldn't be telling the truth. It's just to say that she's unreliable and it's not new information. People are so dedicated to seeing Amber Lynn in the worst possible light that they're ready to believe a death feeder, which, hold on to that note. I also just want to say I think it's crazy that the mission objective of the people in this Discord seems to be keep calm and just keep posting receipts that were attained in a manipulative way. And Jawbone has since responded to the criticism that Charlie presented in her video where she added the context that was missing from the audio clip that Jawbone shared. He said, "I edited the audio because my video was specifically to question Emily lying to Amber about the rumors. I knew multiple people already had the full voice clip with all of the non-washcloth yapping. I just wanted brevity. Ultimately, this voice note poo anecdote is only out there because Emily decided to share it on the internet with Rachel, and Rachel shared it to a Discord. Same reason some of my private conversations are out there now. But somehow we've now arrived at a point where the no communication is private crowd from a couple of days ago are stumbling over themselves to defend a death feeder's right to private communication. Surely we can all admit we're hypocrites in this. I know I am. Let's not fully lose sight of the plot here." I think that's all a load of bullshit and just a way to not take any accountability for things, to Uno reverse it back to the people that are criticizing them for sharing this tea. When I say hold on to the comment about death feeders, right? I say that because seemingly Jawbone is saying, "Oh, now we have to protect the privacy of a death feeder." Well, yes, your friend Rachel, who was in that Discord with you, was stumbling over herself to try to justify why she was giving a death feeder bunches of money. Jawbone is missing the larger point here, and he's trying to deflect away from the point that Charlie and or others are making. Jawbone's trying to make it seem like the criticism is suddenly being hypocritical, but the criticism is there to point out their own hypocrisy. It was Jawbone who initially said in the first sentence of his post responding to the Discord drama, saying, "I'm not going to sit here and apologize for things I said in private messages with people I considered to be friends." The point is that Rachel and company were upset that their private messages were leaked with no regards to the privacy of others.
They then sent all of those screenshots to someone who then shared some of that stuff. That person did not blur the face and name of some of the individuals in those screenshots who are not public figures, which I'm really angry about because some of those people have all kinds of personal stuff going on in their lives. They don't want their faces and names to be made public, and yet they were. It takes 2 seconds to blur somebody's face in a screenshot. So I think that's really fucking poor, to be honest, if I'm being honest about it. If these screenshots get shared by another party and that word is not blanked out, I am going to be absolutely fucking livid, because that covered up word there is a very private, very personal thing that I do in my spare time. And if that gets out because some person doesn't know how to edit a screenshot, I am going to be, or how to respect somebody else's genuinely private matters that have got nothing to do with the internet, I will be absolutely livid.
I know that a lot of people have said there's no such thing as a private Discord. And I would be and have been naive to think anything else. The first thing about it is that this was something that you had to be invited to. It wasn't publicly open and available. Only, I think, 1, maybe 2 people had the ability to offer invites. I couldn't invite anybody if I wanted to. So I don't think this can be compared to, for instance, sharing comments that somebody left on a public-facing YouTube video, like I do sometimes, right? Those comments are left there knowing that they are in full public view and will be seen by absolutely anyone who wants to see them because they're there publicly. Whereas this you had to be invited to. It is not the same thing when there's only 1 or 2 people who have even the power to extend an invitation to enter this server. It does say private. Even if there are people out there saying no Discord is private, technically this was a private Discord server. Only a couple people can send invites. I don't see that being public, okay? That could be getting into semantics, but honestly, I really don't even think that's semantics. I think that's reality. It's just that people seem to think it's normal to make that public anyway. What I see is this normalization of behavior, of no server is private. Just makes it something that happens often. It doesn't actually make it okay. I honestly did feel violated seeing what I thought were private conversations being put in all of these videos across YouTube. I mean, just put yourself in those shoes of, man, I literally thought I was just speaking to some, relatively new acquaintances, and one of them did this. One of them took screenshots of our conversations that we thought were private, naively, and made them public.
And now they're continuing to leak conversations that Rachel had with Emily, but never seemingly planned to keep private between her and Emily, despite her promising money that she never paid to Emily and flirting with her to get that information. Another point is that Rachel, in addressing all of the Discord messages, emphasized how important context is, and then you chose to exclude context that changes the understanding of what happened in that voice note from Emily. Why is it still okay to use receipts that were gathered by Rachel's recklessness? Why is it okay to edit and manipulate those receipts in certain ways to protect your friend? What is the end goal here? Are we learning anything new about Amberlynn that we didn't already know, or are we just piling on to the Amberlynn is a piece of shit dog pile that's been going on for years? And don't get me wrong, I have been there saying that Amberlynn is a piece of shit, just for the record. But I'm just saying, this is nothing new. And as a final note, I want to return to Jawbone's original message responding to the drama about the Discord, because he seemingly wrote off a lot of that drama from the get-go at the very end of his statement on his community tab, where he said, "I am not and will never be some monument to nuance and morality, and I've never claimed to be." And I certainly think he's correct about that. But I also think that that's the thing about morality in Gorlworld. So many creators use morality to rightfully criticize Amberlynn and Chantal. Amberlynn and Chantal are held to moral standards because they're deplorable people. And when we're really breaking it down to this situation with Amberlynn and Emily having conversations with Rachel, Rachel made this a conversation about morality from the moment she shared her reasons for paying Emily. She wanted to help DV survivors. She wanted to bring attention to the money that Amberlynn owed various exes, including Beck. So this particular situation from the get-go has been a conversation about morals. And as such, your morals do come into play here. And people are allowed to take issue with your morals when your whole argument is that Amberlynn is morally problematic. And to be honest, I think that's why some people also take issues with me having a moral high ground. I think there are people that feel like I can't sit here and talk about Amberlynn and Chantal and other people on the internet and still have morals myself. But I'd like to think that the difference between me and maybe Jawbone in this situation is that I'm upfront with what my morals are, as opposed to just saying that I have no moral fabric to begin with. I'm not here to tell you what your morals and integrity have to look like. I'm not here to tell you who to follow or unfollow. But as always, I do think it's important that we all try to think critically about where our information is coming from and what we choose to believe. All the receipts that Emily shared with Rachel and company could absolutely be true. They certainly speak to things that we already know about Amberlynn, but that's also the tea. We already know all of these things about Amberlynn, with or without this info. So I don't know, just keep that in mind as you continue to consume Gorlworld content and start asking questions from creators about where they're getting this information from, how they came into contact with it. I get the idea that some people, want to protect sources and things like that, but also the reality is a lot of these receipts we're talking about now clearly came straight from Tommy. They clearly are Emily's voice. And I think because of this precedent set by Rachel and company, it's important to ask what those creators did to get Emily to share those things with them. That's just my thoughts and feelings as somebody who has no interest in covering any of the receipts from Tommy. I don't really care to talk about that anymore. But I do think it's important to talk about morality when it comes to Gorlworld, because so many people who have a platform because they've spent time talking about Amberlynn's morality want to act like some of us are standing on a moral high ground, as if a lot of their arguments about Amberlynn to begin with don't have something to do with her morals. Just something to think about. That's all I got for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did and you're brand new, consider subscribing down below. Hit the bell button so you get a notification every single time I post a new video. Make sure to leave me a comment, hit like, click share, and follow me on all my social media. I'll see you all next time. Bye!